you see some truth in some of his comments? Do these discussions happen with your family members, your drivers, your cooks, your cleaners, etc.? Because it seems that most of the leadership is cocooned, you know, understandably so. We have economic disparities within the country, but is the message getting to the APC and the leaders there, and what is being done?
Thank you, Hawa. There's no conversation that's taking place in my family, and quite frankly, in many families that I know, that didn't take place 2 years ago, or 4 years ago, or even 10 years ago. These are conversations that have been a part of our national life for quite a while. I think that if the question as to whether or not Nigerians who are struggling today struggled yesterday and the day before, you know, the struggle has been on for a while. And yes, some families, maybe many families, you know, struggle every day and, you know, try to answer that question about, you know, what tomorrow holds. There's no denying that. And I think that, you know, there's nothing to suggest that the president and everyone with him, both in the cabinet and outside of the cabinet, those who are even within the party that I speak for, are, you know, under any sort of illusion as to the reality that, you know, confronts us as a country. But I think that, you know, we must get the perspective. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to respond directly to, you know, Hakeem Baba Ahmed, to some of his very outlandish, you know, claims. Now, the question is, at the time that Hakeem Baba accepted the appointment to be a political advisor, you know, how, you know, drastically different were the conditions in our country at that time and today. So when he speaks today, after, you know, a few months as, you know, political advisor, and suggests that there's some meteorite that came down yesterday, you know, I'm not terribly impressed by that, because, you know, he clearly was in this country, to my knowledge, had lived in this country prior to taking that appointment, which is why some suggest that maybe he took the appointment in order to, you know, again, gain that association with the government, in order to say the things he's saying now. But look, to face the reality, this is a government, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, that is, you know, committed, I think demonstrably so, to tackling some of the fundamental problems and questions and challenges to, you know, the way we live, to our way of life, to our economic life in this country. And, you know, what is actually funny is that many of those who speak, including, you know, Hakeem Baba Ahmed, if this government had not taken some of the far-reaching steps that is taken to reset this, you know, economy, for example, taking out the fuel subsidy, you know, floating naira, which everyone, including Hakeem Baba Ahmed, all, you know, recommended through the years as, you know, they must, you know, do for any administration in order to even begin to get control of, you know, our economic life. So, you know, when this government does it, and people come now and say, look, you know, maybe they shouldn't have done it. Listen, Baba Ahmed didn't prescribe any sort of alternative economic model or approach, or what this government should be doing that they're not doing. Everybody, I think there's virtual consensus on that point, that this administration is doing exactly what everyone else who had the potential, who contested to be president, suggested, you know, had to be done. They did that. So meaning that, you know, what we're right now is a question of gestation. You know, how long it takes for the actual results of the reforms of the administration to begin to trickle to the dining tables, because this is where the convention is. That's what matters for people. They don't quite care what goes on, you know, at the CBN or, you know, on the macro level. People worry about, you know, their living room, their dining table. Are they able to put food on the table? That question, yes, this government is actually, you know, in engagement, trying to fix that. But I think that, you know, again, we need to, you know, be mindful of time and that time spectrum that requires between the administration, you know, onset of the administration and its policies, and when this, you know, again, dining table, we begin to feel the full impact. We're already there, but you know what? You know, the food is still, you know, probably cooking, not quite served as people will, you know, like it.
Well, I think you tried to give us a detailed explanation, but the issue at hand is, he says Nigeria right now is worse off than it was under Buhari's administration. So this is really not a question of whether, you know, this conversation has carried on over the years.
No.
And if you're asking for what is worse, according to him, inflation, and I think in reality, inflation is higher. Petrol price has gone up, transportation has gone up, the naira has weakened in value. You know, it was higher under Buhari's administration, even though it was even lower under the PDP years. So it does seem like the promise of APC actually giving us a change from what we had in the past, it was a mirage. Because if anything, the change from what we are seeing right now is negative. So how then do you justify that?
No, first of all, that, you know, the premise of your question is not based on economics. It's based on simply anecdotes. You know, it's based on people. Hakeem Baba Ahmed did not make an economic argument. He didn't. I don't think he suggested that it was when he made those conclusions. You see, it's easy to draw conclusions. You can conclude anything you want.
Probably you haven't read his statement, or you didn't listen to the interview.
Listen, the interview on Arise
on Channels TV. Yes.
I listened to it from the beginning to the end. Actually, as a matter of fact, I listened to it twice. So there's nothing he said that I missed. And so my response is, a full thoughtful reaction to his interview. I didn't miss a word he said. I listened very carefully. But he didn't make an economic argument. I want to double down on that. I mean, you can go back and listen to him. Simply suggesting that things are worse under this administration in comparison with the former administration is not an economic argument. That's a statement of opinion. That's, if you interview 1 million people, then you might as well get 1 million, opinions on that question about conclusion. Conclusion is not economics. Economics is economics. It's a process, and it's based often on facts and, projections.
So are you denying that inflation is higher? Look, talking about economic argument, so are you denying that inflation is higher?
Let me tell you why I tell you it's not an economic argument. When you ask the question the way you're asking, that doesn't make it an economic argument. I'll tell you why. We just, in the last frame of question that, Howard asked, I just said to you that this government embarked upon deep, far-reaching policy reforms. For example, floated the naira. If the naira was floated as against a previously dictated value of the naira, you don't expect everything to be where it was prior to that, floating of the naira. So your question is not taking into account that reality. That naira was, fixed at a particular value, and this government came along in line with, I think, the best economic wisdom, decided that we must float the naira in order for the naira to become more competitive, and then take out the fuel subsidy that was, a hemorrhage to the economy. The economy was bleeding needlessly. Everybody agreed that the subsidy system was, in fact, some people said it was fraudulent. But look, the point is that when you take out fair subsidy regime, that was at the core of the economic, system, and you float the naira to twin massive economic, uptake, you don't expect the fundamentals, whether it's of inflation or anything else, to be the same. But question is, are those systems, interventions, are they meant to produce, the overall good down the road? The answer is clearly yes. In the short term, are there supposed to be, consequences, repercussions for those twin policy shifts? The answer is definitely yes. And that's what we're dealing with. So when you make a leap in logic and say that because, inflation was X and now it's this, without factoring this massive economic, transformation that is going on, then that is not economics. Hakim Baba Ahmed is not discussing economics. He's discussing his personal opinion. And I think that at that point, I don't respect that too much.
Well, level with me here, Mr. Morka. You seem like quite a reasonable individual. And
I am, actually.
Of course. And it seems that there is an inability to just say it. Okay, you said it's a logical leap from A to B. Fine. But we are experiencing the repercussions of some very sharp policies. Now, they were done for a good reason, but we're feeling it. Everybody's feeling it. So is it worse now when Buhari was in, were we feeling it worse when Buhari was in office or when Tinubu is in office? Or is it an ego, political issue? Because it seems, now, just bear with me, it seems that members of the APC, no one wants to admit any kind of defeat or struggle, especially in this political climate, APC, PDP, everybody else, everyone is aligning for 2027. But is it just so wrong to say, okay, it's worse now than it was under Buhari, but we're working towards making things better? Why is it so hard to just say, maybe Nigerians would feel less betrayed, less annoyed, if there was some empathy in the way things were communicated. But you guys just come out and you say, no, we're not doing, okay, fine. For those who are intellectual and economists and have all the data, fine, they can be the ones that are doing the psychological economic leap from A to B. But for normal plain people, just come and say, it's okay. It's worse. We know you're struggling worse than you were when Buhari was in leadership. Is it a political reason that you won't come out and say it because the APC doesn't want to seem like they're losing on PDP matters? Because you guys rode into power on the backs of the fact that you would do better than the PDP, and obviously it's not working like that. So is that the reason why you guys just can't come and say it? It would make people feel so much better. Just admit just a little bit so that we can all
let me answer you.
Move forward.
No, Howard, please. That's not even the point. That's not the point. The President of the Federal Republic, in all of his public commentary, including his address, and some of the media interviews given, he's been very clear. No one in APC is denying, certainly not Felix Morka. I'm not denying the fact that the economic reform of the government in the short term has produced some difficulties or elevated difficulties for our people.
There we go. I think that's what Nigerians want to hear. That is it. That is it.
Even on your station. That is it. No, please. Even on your station here, I've sat in this chair and in Abuja and said what I just said, repeatedly, over and over again. I can forward you tapes. I have them for you to look at. So this is not a statement that is new. I'm not making any new statement. The president himself has, said so. A lot of the critical, representatives of government at the ministerial level and, others have also said so. Everyone has acknowledged that, naturally, inevitably, it doesn't matter who was doing this, whether it was, President Tinubu or anyone else, if they had become president, who did it, this will be an inevitable process we had to go through. So the point here is, which is why that is not the news. The news is what is being done and exactly what does it point to? What are the markers going forward in terms of, achieving some of the fundamental objectives that were set? Because if the question is just about, is bread more expensive today than it was yesterday? Listen, the explanation can just be in the fact that Naira was devalued. But the real question is whether the devaluation of the Naira was, just something that was done, flippantly and fragrantly, or whether it was done for a purpose that's meant to, really embed this economy in, solid foundation for growth. That is the conversation. That is the economic part of this conversation, which our people need to know. It's not enough to just, get sentimental and talk about the price of food today and the price of food yesterday. Those are critical to our people. And no one denies that. I don't certainly deny that. I don't trifle with it. Everyone who knows me, all my life, my professional life, I, spoke for the poor. And my advocacy all my life has been, on behalf of the poor. So, these are my constituents, the people that I respect enormously. So I don't trifle with their condition. But the point I'm making is that when the reform is meant to, enact a long-term programmatic change that will inure to the benefit and strengthen and reposition of our economy over time so that we never again go back to this, stage where it's about survival. Because see, look, before this administration, we had a phantom economy. The truth of the matter is that everything we knew, the comfort we thought we had, was unreal. It was completely phantom, and which is why the surgical reform that this administration is, promoting is meant to correct those, fundamental errors in the economic life of our country, so that we can be better, solidly, foundationed. And I think that anyone who cares about Nigeria must reckon with that. Because if you don't reckon with that, you can survive today, you can get more loans. This government can, you see, you must also ask yourself, for a government that's actually hoping, maybe, even looking towards the next political dispensation, you must ask yourself, what government does this? You see, what will it take this president to say, listen, enough of this. Open up, get all the loans, flood the market with food and all that. Will that solve Nigeria's problem, which has been in a rot, mode for generations? It will not. He will simply be kicking the can down the road, which another president will have to solve. But this president said, no, this buck, stops with me. Right now, whether you like it or not, we must begin to rebuild. When you renovate a house, if you renovate the studio, look, you may not come in here dressed the way you are because it will be a mess. But when it's done, one day you're going to look back here, sit here more comfortable than you are today to actually, do your job. My point is that we must give time. And this rush, you see, this discussion we're having happened 2 months after this administration was inaugurated. It happened 3 months after. When was this government was supposed to actually have the time of day to, fashion its policies and implement them and allow the results to flow? These critics, including Hakim Baba Ahmed, never have given this administration a day to even settle in, to think, to act, and to begin to harness the outcomes of the reforms that are currently ongoing.
Well, Mr. Moka, yes. Some people would argue that it's actually this administration that did not even give Nigerians a break. Right from the very first day, it's been from one hardship to the other. So this begs the question of how much patience really does this administration require from Nigerians? On May 29, which is this month, it will be 2 years since this administration came into office. So in what ways have the government's policies yielded, just give us an example of one that has yielded positive results and how it has directly impacted the standard of living of Nigerians?
Okay, I can give you. Now, first of all, there's a reason that the Constitution fashioned a 4-year term for any administration, not 2 years. In the wisdom of the framers of our Constitution, they could have given anybody, even at the local government, 2 years to run. But, people understand that when you come into a government, you need time to, first think through your policy framework and enact them and then implement them. Those are gestational. People don't get pregnant today or conceive today and give birth tomorrow. There is a natural process of gestation for human delivery. Similarly, our government today has moved away, far away from the previous governments in so many ways. Now, apart from the twin policy we discussed, and flowing from those policies, now take any sector, take education. This government is investing massively in education, helping students who hitherto were indigent, who couldn't afford fees, to pay fees. Just a few days ago, there was some, controversy which I think was settled by the head of NEL Fund to say, look, we don't have any funds missing. But look at the budget that this government has allocated to support students' education. That is there. And everybody knows that education is key to economic recovery and growth and sustainability. We know that. Take the oil sector. Nigeria today is producing and exporting more crude oil than we have done in a very long time. That again suggests some level of care, policy, management, and stability in that sector, and which has helped us now to keep our forex bracket relatively more,
but how has that impacted on the average Nigerian?
I'm coming.
That's what I really want to know. You can give us figures, but if we're not feeling it, we will continue to have this argument. So that's what I need to know.
That's exactly my point. That's exactly the point I'm making to Nigerians, which is that, yes, you may call them figures, but without those figures and without the trend towards, I think, a revamping of the economy, what you're asking about dining room, economics will never come through, because the problems that we are trying to solve and the problems that has beset Nigeria for a long time comes from that, very awkward, wrong economic, pedestal. We got it wrong. Now, you can't be exporting more than you're importing. Or rather, importing more than you're exporting, and expect the economy to do well, and expect dining table to do good. You cannot. It's not possible. No country does that. That's not even you as an individual. If you earn 200,000 and every month your expenditure is $1 million, you will have a problem. But for the first time in a long time, for several consecutive quarters today, Nigeria is exporting more than we're importing. That balance of payment, surplus, will ultimately translate to better dining room conditions. Our farmers are doing better. In case you don't know, yes. Howard, don't even argue about this. In my district, and trust me, listen.
It might just be your district, but we're hearing a lot of reports about insecurity, farmers not being able to. Also, global warming, they're not able to farm their lands as they were supposed to.
These things are happening simultaneously.
Right, now, but it's still happening.
In some parts of the country, farmers are not doing very well because of insecurity challenges. Nobody disputes that. But in other parts of the country, farmers are doing exceptionally well. I'm from Delta State. Farmers in my district are doing better than they ever did because they're getting more money. See, when you say food prices, food inflation, somebody is collecting the money. Those who are engaged in farming activities, who are putting out tubers and vegetables and pepper that you say is expensive, somebody is actually collecting the cash. Don't forget that. So those farmers who are producing and who are able to sell are getting more money, more income than those who are not. Let me tell you where the problem is. Why I think people appear to be really struggling with this conversation, which is that those who are on fixed income in any economy that is in transition, anywhere in the world, go to Mexico, the United States, anywhere, it doesn't matter if it's developed or developing. Those who are on fixed income typically struggle because inflation is always ahead of what they make. But those who are in some productive engagement, whether they're farmers or providing services, if I want to fix my phone, the individual will charge me based on his own economic analysis of what he needs to actually stay in business. So those are able to make up and catch up. So labor, and the reason labor price or wage is low is because there's still a lot of surplus labor. As the economy revamps and more people in the labor market are absorbed into the economy and labor becomes scarce, Arise TV will pay you more, Howard. They'll pay you more because, at that point,
for the sake of time,
are there.
For the sake of time, let me cut in. As the youth will say, you go explain tired. We don't have enough time on the show. So let's move towards the next steps. Because obviously, we've all agreed things are not as great as we would like them to be. There's a gestational period. Even though I do take umbrage at this government consistently using pregnancy as this, having known that most of you guys are men and never been pregnant a day in your lives. So you don't really know what
I didn't know anybody used it, sorry.
Yes, they're always talking about it depends on pregnancy. No. Okay. How long is it going to take? Can you give us, is it going to be another 2 years? Will we start seeing this change when 2027 rolls around? How convenient.
The change is here already.
No. We already, let's not go back. We already discussed that the change is not here. We already settled that one between the two of us.
We did it.
So when will we see it?
Let me answer.
Since the economists have been able to cook up some numbers, the farmers in Delta State are doing better. You people in your family are doing it better. When are we going to be feeling it? Not even we, but the other general we.
The average Nigerian.
Yes, 2 years, 4 years. Is it when Tinubu gets reelected? Is that when we're?
No.
Or is it?
The change is here with us already.
Oh man, we're not going to accept that answer. We can't. That's not realistic.
No, hang on, Howard.
It's not rooted in reality.
No, it's not about personal opinions. You see, you can. Rotus, your guy.
That is who we need here, Rotus and Mr. Bosin, because they would have finished you with numbers. You just have me and Timmy talk right here who are not economists. But
Rotus is a great guy. But Rotus will tell you, and after this conversation, if he's not around, put a call to him. Rotus will tell you that when it comes to food inflation, in some, uncertain produce in that, basket, we're witnessing a downward slide. in price. Everyone agrees on that. I'm surprised that we're having this conversation. Everybody agrees that, the price of produce is, sliding down gradually. And, it's about production. We need to put out more. And you made a point, which is what the government is very aware of, the insecurity and how it affects, agricultural productivity. And government is tackling that head on. The president was just in Katsina a few days ago, and he made it clear that, look, there's no tolerating any, margin or safe margin for those who are holding this country, to ransom. And, these are not things that are planned for. No government comes to say, look, you know what, we're going to have an upsurge in crime or in criminality or in insecurity. It happens in Nigeria, it happens everywhere else. But our troops are doing a fantastic job, neutralized over 10,000 insurgents and bandits, in a very short period of time. They've arrested and detained, thousands more. It's a struggle, because those who are fighting these battles are our children. Don't forget that. They are children, they're flesh and blood as well. So, and we don't pay enough tribute to them as a country, because everyone is busy. When there's an attack, everyone is, tearing them down, and, but we need to also support our troops. And I think that when you look at it overall, we are not alone in this really dangerous, promenade. It's happening in other countries. We must focus on our own. The president is doing, everything that is possible to do to bring this, phenomenon down, and to, create a safe, passage for our farmers to go back to the farm, grow food, and feed all of us, as we hope and expect.
This is Felix Morka. You see, that's what they know how to do. Arguments. They are very argumentative. They can lie for no reason. Everybody knows them for that. They are very good. Give it to them. When it comes to lie, give it to them. If you take anything he says serious, you are on your own. Not even he. All the APC members take anything they say serious concerning this administration, you are your own, because for them, for their mind, you are already living in abroad. For Tinubu, I listened to a few things he said in Katsina 2 days ago, right? When he said something. Anyways, I understand what he said, that the economy was tumbling, that he nearly ran away. He nearly left government house because the country, listen to everybody speaking on social media. Media has this, that the country is bad, but today it's getting better. What is getting better? That's what he said. If you ask Akpabio for his mind, Nigeria is in London. This one, the same thing. Singapore, Nigeria is in Singapore in their mind, in this one mind. So you cannot listen to this and give yourself hope. No, for him there is no hope. Do you understand? Now let me tell you something. Because they are very good. This, that. You say Baba Ahmed did not make any economic argument, that didn't speak about that. He said today Nigeria of today is worse than Buhari's government. And you are still saying he does not make any economic argument. What do you want? His country is worse off. Nigerians of today, are you living better than 2 years ago? 2 years ago was better for you, right? So you are saying, and they are very good in using this analogy. He said the country is this is a gestation period. They are very good. That's what they say. Gestation period. Now we should give them time. We should give you 100 years for your policies to come to realization. Now the country is going through gestation. This is a gestation period. We should give you 100 years. We should give you 100 years. Don't mind them. This is when you listen to APC members. That's what they always say. And second thing they say, they use as an example, giving themselves hope. First hope is you can't get married today. If you get married today, you get your woman pregnant today, you are not expecting her to deliver tomorrow. She needs time, concession period before she delivered, right? Now the country is going through concession. That is gestation period. Now we should give them time, 100 years. Now let me also say this to you. That same woman, if you get your woman pregnant today, right? You know that this woman, she's pregnant. This is the result of that pregnancy. She's pregnant. Go to the hospital, you do scanning. The doctor tells you this woman is pregnant. Probably she's going to deliver a bouncing baby boy, bouncing baby girl, or twins, right? Even triplets. They'll tell you through scanning, right? They tell you. And when she's going to deliver, 9 months period, right? 9 months time she's going to deliver. We know that one. But now, can you tell us when this country is going to get better? When we are going to go through, how long are we going to go through this gestation? Can you tell us? Obviously, no, you can't tell us. But that pregnancy you use as an example here to analyze your false analysis, you can't tell us. But the woman, we could see she's pregnant. You started getting ready, getting planning, getting baby things done. In 9 months' time, she's going to deliver. Except that exception does not come easily, except for maybe underlying issues from whatever. Well, let's not go into that. Do you understand? But obviously it's 9 months. 9 months time. But this country now, the Tinubu's government, it does not have time. Even if you give them, now, no, this is not me. Daniel Bwala said it before. Give Tinubu 30 years to fix this country. He cannot fix this country. He can't. For Bwala to have the time to APC, that is for stomach infrastructure. Personal gain. That is it. For this, the reality, what we can see today, things are not getting better, and there is no way, there is no magic to it to make this country get better before 2027. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better than. Mark this video down. Mark this video down. If this country is going to get better within 2 years, 2027, now that this president of this thing, Adesina, is already warning, he's raising alarm that this country is sinking. It's very fragile now. Is very fragile. It's not sustainable. Suddenly jumped from 1,847 economic GDP to 847. Do you know the losses? How are you going to recover that within 2 years? I know that was not just 2 years. It's since we understand, but we know where, when Tinubu took over, where the GDP was and where it is today. We know that. Do you understand? So you coming online to speak like this, I like. Anyways, you can speak anything you want. We know that, okay, the country is not going anywhere. We are just living by the grace of God. God take us through this period of 2 years to know if somebody else is going to come take over and start changing things. Otherwise, relies on this policy. No, we only send people to early grave. That is it. So please share this video and leave your comment. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll be your guy. Run out for me now.